The Book of the Secrets of Enoch. There was a wise man, a great artificer, and the Lord conceived love for him, and received him, that he should behold the uppermost dwellings, and be an eye-witness of the wise and the great and inconceivable and immutable realm of God Almighty, and of the very wonderful and the glorious and bright and many-eyed station of the Lord's servants, and of the inaccessible throne of the Lord, and of the degrees and manifestations of the incorporeal hosts, and of the ineffable ministration of the multitude of the elements, of the various apparition and inexpressible singing of the host of cherubim, and of the boundless light. And at that time, he said, when my 165th year was completed, I begat my son Methuselah. And after this too I lived 200 years, and completed all the years of my life, 365 years. On the first day of the month I was in my house alone, and I was resting on my bed and slept. And when I was asleep, great distress came to my heart, and I was weeping with my eyes in sleep, and I could not understand what this distress was, or what would happen to me. And there appeared to me two men, exceeding big, so that I never saw such on earth. Their faces were shining like the sun, their eyes too were like a burning light, and from their lips was a fire coming forth with clothing and singing of various kinds in appearance purple. Their wings were brighter than gold, and their hands whiter than snow. They were standing at the head of my bed, and began to call me by my name. And I arose from my sleep, and saw clearly those two men standing in front of me. And I saluted them, and was seized with fear, and the appearance of my face was changed from terror. And those men said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear, the eternal God sent us to you. And lo, you shall today ascend with us into heaven. And you shall tell your sons and all your household all that they shall do without you on earth in your house. And let no one seek you till the Lord return you to them." And I made haste to obey them, and I went out from my house, and I made to the doors as it was ordered me. And I summoned my sons Methuselah and Regem and Gadad, and made them known to them all the marvels those men had told me. "Listen to me, my children. I know not whither I go, or what will befall me. Now therefore, my children, I tell you, turn not from God before the face of the vain, who made not heaven and earth. For these shall perish, and those who worship them. And may the Lord make confident your hearts in the fear of him. And now, my children, let no one think to seek me until the Lord return me to you." It came to pass, when Enoch had told his sons, that the angels took him unto their wings, and bore him up to the first heaven, and placed him on the clouds. And there I looked, and again I looked higher, and saw the ether, and they placed me on the first heaven, and showed me a very great sea, greater than the earthly sea. They brought before my face the elders and rulers of the stellar orders, and showed me 200 angels, who rule the stars and their services to the heavens, and fly with their wings, and come round all those who sail. And there I looked down, and I saw treasure houses of snow, and the angels who keep their terrible storehouses, and the clouds whence they come out, and into which they go. They showed me a treasure house of the dew, like oil of the olive, and the appearance of its form as of all the flowers of the earth. Further, many angels guarding the treasure houses of these things, and how they are made to shut and open. And those men took me, and they led me up to the second heaven, and showed me darkness, greater than earthly darkness. And there I saw prisoners hanging, watched, awaiting the great and boundless judgment. And these angels were dark-looking, more than earthly darkness, and incessantly making weeping through all hours. And I said to the men who were with me, "Wherefore are these incessantly tortured?" And they answered me, "These are God's apostates, who obeyed not God's commandments, but took counsel with their own will, and turned away with their prince, who also is fastened on the fifth heaven." And I felt great pity for them. And they saluted me, and said to me, "Man of God, pray for us to the Lord." And I answered to them, "Who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? Who knows whither I go, and what will befall me? Or who will pray for me?" Those men took me thence, and led me up to the third heaven, and placed me there. And I looked downwards, and I saw the produce of these places, such as never been known for goodness. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees, and beheld their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and all the foods borne by them bubbling with fragrant exhalation. And in the midst of the trees that of life, in that place whereon the Lord rests, when he goes up into paradise, and this tree is of ineffable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than every existing thing, and on all sides is in its form gold-looking and vermilion and fire-like, and covers all, and it has produce from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end, and paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And 2 springs come out which send forth honey and milk, and their springs send forth oil and wine, and they separate into 4 parts, and go round about with quiet course, and go down into paradise of Eden, between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And thence they go forth along the earth, and have a revolution to their circle, even as other elements. And there is no unfruitful tree, and every place is blessed. And there are 300 angels very bright, who keep the garden, and with incessant sweet singing, never silent voices, serve the Lord throughout all days and hours. And I said, How very sweet is this place! And those men said to me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous, who will endure all manner of offence from those that exasperate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity, and make righteous judgment, and give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen, and help injured orphans, who walk without fault before the Lord, and serve him alone. For them is prepared this place for eternal inheritance. And those 2 men led me up into the northern side, and there they showed me a very terrible place, and there were all manner of tortures in that place, cruel darkness and unillumined gloom. And there was no light there, but murky fire constantly flaming aloft, and there was a fiery river coming forth, and that whole place is everywhere fire, and everywhere there is frost and ice, thirst and shivering, while the bonds are very cruel, and the angels fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons, merciless torture. And I said, Woe, woe, how very terrible is this place! And those men said to me, O Enoch, this place is prepared for those who dishonour God, who on earth practise sin against nature, which is child corruption after the sodomitic fashion, magic making, enchantments, and the devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing, lies, calumnies, envy, rancour, fornication, murder, and who, accursed, steal the souls of men, who, seeing the poor, take away their goods, and themselves wax rich, hindering them for other men's goods, who, being able to satisfy the empty, make the hungering to die, and being able to clothe, strip the naked, and who knew not their Creator, and bow to the soulless and lifeless gods, who cannot see nor hear, vain gods, who also built hewn images, and bow down to unclean handiwork. For all these is prepared this place among these for eternal inheritance. And those men took me, and led me up to the 4th heaven, and they showed me all the successive goings, and all the rays of light of sun and moon. And I measured their goings, and it compared their light, and saw that the sun's light is greater than the moon's. Its circle and the wheels on which it goes always, like the wind going past with very marvellous speed, and day and night it has no rest. On its passage and return are accompanied by 4 great stars, and each star has under it 1,000 stars, to the right of the sun's wheel, and by the 4 to the left, each having under it 1,000 stars, altogether 8,000, issuing with the sun continually. By day 15 myriads of angels attended, and by night 1,000. And 6 winged ones issue with the angels before the sun's wheel into fiery flames, and 100 angels kindle the sun and set it alight. And I looked, and I saw other flying elements of the sun, whose names are phoenixes and chalkidri, marvellous and wonderful, with feet and tails in the form of a lion and crocodile's head, and their appearance is empurpled like the rainbow. Their size is 900 measures. Their wings are like those of angels, each has 12, and they attend from a company in the sun, bearing heat and dew, as it is ordered them from God. Thus the sun revolves and goes, and rises under heaven, and its course goes under the earth, with the light of its rays incessantly. Those men bore me away to the east, and placed me at the sun's gate, where the sun goes forth according to the regulation of the season, in the circuit of the months of the whole year, and the number of the hours, day and night. And I saw 6 gates open, each gate having 61 stadia, and a quarter of 1 stadium. And I measured them truly, and understood their size to be so much, though which the sun goes forth, and goes to the west, and is made even, and rises throughout all the months, and turns back again from the 6 gates, according to the succession of the seasons. Thus the period of the whole year is finished after the returns of the 4 seasons. And again those men led me away to the western parts, and showed me 6 great gates, open corresponding to the eastern gates, opposite where the sun sets, according to the number of the days 365 and a quarter. Thus again it goes down to the western gates, and draws away its light in the greatness of its brightness under the earth. For since the crown of the shining is in heaven with the Lord, and guarded by 400 angels, while the sun goes round on a wheel under the earth, and stands 7 great hours in night, and spends half its course under the earth. When it comes to the eastern approach, in the 8th hour of the night, it brings its lights and crown of shining, and the sun flames forth more than fire. Then the elements of the sun, called phoenixes and chalkidri, break into song. Therefore every bird flutters with its wings, rejoicing at the giver of light, and they broke into song at the command of the Lord. The giver of light comes to give brightness to the whole world, and the morning guard takes shape, which is the rays of the sun, and the sun of the earth goes out and receives its brightness to light up the whole face of the earth. And they showed me this calculation of the sun's going. And the gates which it enters, these are the great gates of the calculation of the hours of the year. For this reason the sun is a great creation, whose circuit lasts 28 years, and begins again from the beginning. Those men showed me other course, that of the moon, 12 great gates, crowned from west to east, in which the moon goes in and out of customary times. And it goes in at the first gate to the western places of the sun, by the first gates which 31 days exactly, by the second gates with 31 days exactly, by the third gate with 30 days exactly, by the fourth gate with 30 days exactly, by the fifth gate 31 days exactly, by the sixth gate 31 days exactly, by the seventh gate 30 days exactly, by the eighth gate 31 days exactly, perfectly, by the ninth with 31 days exactly, by the 10th with 30 days perfectly, by the 11th with 31 days exactly, by the 12th with 28 days exactly. And it goes through the western gates in the order and number of the eastern, and accomplishes their 365 and a quarter days of the solar year, while the lunar year is 354, and there is a wanting to it 12 days of the solar circle, which there are lunar epochs of the whole year. Thus too the great circle contains 532 years. The quarter of daily is omitted for 3 years, the fourth fulfills it exactly. Therefore they are taken outside of heaven for 3 years, and are not added to the number of days, because they change the time of the years to the new months towards completion, the 2 other towards diminution. When the western gates are finished, it returns and goes to the eastern to the lights. It goes thus day and night about the heavenly circles, low in order circles, swifter than the heavenly wings, spirits and elements, and angels flying. Each angel has 6 wings. It has 7-fold course in 19 years. In the midst of the heavens I saw armed soldiers serving the Lord, with tympana and organs, with incessant voice, with sweet and incessant voice, and various singing, which is impossible to describe, and which astonishes every mind. So wonderful and marvellous is the singing of those angels, and I was delighted listening to it. Men took me onto the 5th heaven, and placed me, and there I saw many countless soldiers, called Grigori, of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of great giants, and their faces withered, and the silence of their mouths perpetual, and there was no service in the 5th heaven. And I said to the men who were with me, Wherefore are these withered their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent, and wherefore is no service in this heaven? And they said to me, These are the Grigori, who with their prince Satanael rejected the Lord of light, and after them are those who are held in great darkness on the 2nd heaven. And 3 of them went down to the earth from the Lord's throne to place Hermon, and broke through their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of men how good they are, and took to themselves wives, and befouled the earth with their deeds, who in all times of their age made lawlessness and mixing, and giants are born, and marvellous big men with great enmity. And therefore God judged them with a great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on the Lord's great day. And I said to the Grigori, I saw your brethren and their works and their great torments, and I prayed for them, but the Lord has condemned them to be under earth until the existing heaven and earth shall end forever. And I said, Wherefore do you wait, brethren, and do not serve before the Lord's face, and have not put your services before the Lord's face, lest you anger your Lord utterly? And they listened to my admonition, and they spoke the 4 ranks in heaven. And lo, as I stood, those 2 men, 4 trumpets trumpeted together with a great voice, and the Gregory broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before the Lord pitifully and affectingly. And thence those men took me, and bore me up to the 6th heaven. And there I saw 7 bands of angels, very bright and very glorious, and their faces shining more than the sun shining, glistening, and there is no difference in their faces, or behaviour, or manner of dress. And these make the orders, and learn the goings of the stars, and the alteration of the moon, or the revolution of the sun, and the good government of the world. And when they see evil doing, they make commandments and instruction, and sweet and loud singing, and all songs of praise. These are the archangels who are above angels, measure all life in heaven and on earth, and the angels who are appointed over seasons and years, the angels who are over rivers and sea, who are over the fruits of the earth, and the angels who are over every grass, giving food to all, to every living thing, and to the angels who write all the souls of men, and all their deeds and their lives before the Lord's face. And there in the midst are 6 phoenixes, and 6 cherubim, and 6 winged ones, continually with one voice singing one voice, and it's not possible to describe their singing, and they rejoice before the Lord at his footstool. Those 2 men lifted me up, and thence took me on to the 7th heaven. I saw there a very great light, fiery troops of great archangels, incorporeal forces and dominions, orders and governments, cherubim and seraphim, thrones and many-eyed ones, 9 regiments, and I in its stations of light. And I became afraid, and I began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me, and led me after them, and said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. And showed me the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there in the 10th heaven, since the Lord dwells there? And the heavenly troops will come and stand. On the 10th heaven there is God. In the Hebrew tongue he is called Aravat. And in the heavenly troops they will come and stand on the 10 steps according to their rank. And they will bow down to the Lord, and will go again to their places in joyful felicity, singing songs of boundless light with small and tender voices, gloriously serving him. Of how the angels were left, and the cherubim and seraphim standing about the throne, the 6 winged and many-eyed ones do not depart, standing before the Lord's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before the Lord's face, Holy, 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 Lord ruler of Sabaoth, heavens and earth are full of your glory. When all these things, those men said to me, Enoch, thus far is it commanded to us to journey with you. And those men went away from me, and thereupon I saw them not. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, Woe is me, what has befallen me? And the Lord sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel Gabriel, and said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear, arise before the Lord's face into eternity. Arise, come with me. And I answered him, and I said to myself, My Lord, my soul is departed from me, from terror and trembling. And I called to the men who led me up to this place. On them I relied, and it's with them I go before the Lord's face. And Gabriel caught me up, as a leaf caught up by the wind, and placed me before the Lord's face. And I saw the 8th heaven, which is called in Hebrew tongue, Mazuloth, changer of the seasons, of drought and of wet, and of the 12 constellations, of the circle of the firmament which are above the 7th heaven. And I saw the 9th heaven, which is called in Hebrew Kuchavim, and there are heavenly homes of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. In the 10th heaven the archangel Michael led Enoch before the Lord's face, and on the 10th heaven, which is called Aravoth, I saw the appearance of the Lord's face, like iron made to glow in fire, and brought out, emitting sparks and burns. Thus, in a moment of eternity, I saw the Lord's face, but the Lord's face is ineffable, marvellous, and very awful, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell of the Lord's unspeakable being, and of his very wonderful face? And I cannot tell the quantity of his many instructions and various voices. The Lord's throne is very great, and not made with hands, nor the quantity of those standing round him, troops of cherubim and seraphim, nor their incessant singing,
nor his immutable beauty, and who shall tell of the ineffable greatness of his glory? And I fell prone and bowed down to the Lord, and the Lord with his lips had said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise and stand before my face into eternity. And the archistrage Michael lifted me up and led me before the Lord's face. And the Lord said to his servants, tempting them, Let Enoch stand before my face into eternity. And the glorious ones bowed down to the Lord and said, Let Enoch go according to your word. The Lord said to Michael, Go and take Enoch from out of his earthly garments, and anoint him with my sweet ointment, and put him into the garments of my glory. And Michael did thus, and the Lord told him, He anointed me, and dressed me, and the appearance of that of ointment is more than a great light, and his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's ray. And I looked at myself, and I was like one of his glorious ones. And the Lord summoned one of his archangels by the name Pravuel, whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than other archangels, who wrote all the deeds of the Lord. And the Lord said to Pravuel, Bring out the books of my storehouses, and read the quick writing, and give it to Enoch, and deliver to him the choice of comforting books out of your hand. And he was telling me all the works of heaven, of earth and sea, and all the elements, and their passages and goings, and the thunderings of the thunders, and the moon and sun, and the goings and the changings of the stars, and the seasons, years, days, and hours, and the risings of the wind, the numbers of the angels, and the formation of the songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song and life, with the commandments, instructions, and sweet-voiced singings, and all things that is fitting to learn. And Pravuel told me, All these things that I have told you, we have written. Sit and write all the souls of mankind, however many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity. For all souls are prepared to eternity before the formation of the world, and all double 30 days, and 30 nights, and I wrote out all things exactly, and I wrote 366 books. And the Lord summoned me, and said to me, Enoch, sit down by my left with Gabriel. And I bowed down to the Lord, and the Lord spoke to me, Enoch, beloved, all that you see, all things that are standing finished, I tell you even before the very beginning, all that I created from non-being and visible from the invisible. Hear, Enoch, and take in these words, for not my angels have I told my secret, and I have not told them their rise, nor my endless realm, nor have they understood my creating, which I tell you today. For behold, all things were visible. I alone used to go about in the invisible things, like the sun from east to west, and from west to east. But even the sun has peace in itself, while I found no peace, because I was creating all things, and I conceived the thought of placing foundations, and of creating visible creation. I commanded in the very lowest parts that visible things should come down from the invisible, and Adoil came down very great. And I beheld him, and lo, he had a belly of great light. And I said to him, Become undone, Adoil, and let the visible come out of you. And he came undone, a great light came out, and I was in the midst of the great light. And as there is born light from light, there came forth a great age, and showed all creation, which I had thought to create. And I saw that it was good. And I placed for myself a throne, and I took my seat on it, and I said to the light, Go thence up higher, fix yourself high above the throne, and be a foundation to the highest things. And above the light there is nothing else. And then I bent up and looked up from my throne. And I summoned the very lowest a second time, and I said, Let Arcus come forth hard, and let him come forth hard from the invisible. And Arcus came forth hard, heavy, and very red. And I said, Be opened, Arcus, and let there be born from you. And he came undone, and age came forth, very great and very dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. And I saw that it was good, and said to him, Go thence down below, and make yourself firm, and be a foundation for the lower things. And it happened, and he went down and fixed himself, and became the foundation for the lower things. And below darkness there is nothing else. And I commanded that there should be taken from the light and darkness, and I said, Be thick, and it came thus, and I spread it out with the light, and it became water, and I spread it out over darkness below the light, and then I made firm the waters, that is to say, the bottomless, and I made the foundation of light around the water, and created 7 circles from inside, and imaged the water like crystal, wet and dry, that is to say, like glass, and the circumcision of the waters and the other elements, and I showed each one to them its road, and the 7 stars, each one of them in its heaven. And they go thus, and I saw them, and it was good. And I separated between the light and between the darkness, that is to say, in the midst of the water, hither and thither. And I said to the light that it would be the day, and to the darkness that it should be night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And when I made firm the heavenly circle, I made it that the lower waters under the heaven collect itself together into one whole, and that the chaos became dry, and it became so. Out of the waves I created rock hard and big, and from the rock I piled up the dry, and the dry I called earth, and the mist of the earth I called abyss, that is to say, the bottomless. I created the sea in one place and bound it together with the yoke. And I said to the sea, Behold, I give you your eternal limits, and you shall not break loose from your component parts. Thus I made firm the firmament. This day I called me the first created, Sunday. And for all the heavenly troops I imaged, the image of essence of fire, and my eye looking at the very hard, firm rock, and from the gleam in the eye of the lightning received its wonderful nature, which is both fire and water and fire, as one does not put out the other, nor does one dry up the other. Therefore the lightning is brighter than the sun, softer than the water, and firmer than the hard rock. And from the rock I cut off a great fire, and from the fire I created the orders of the Incorporeal 10 troops of angels, and their weapons of fiery with their raiment of burning flame, and I commanded them that each one should stand in his order. And one from the order of angels, having turned away with the order of that was under him, received an impossible thought, to place his throne higher in the clouds above the earth, that he might become equal rank to my power. And I threw him out from the height with his angels, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless. And on the 3rd day I commanded the earth that make grow great and fruitful trees, and hills, and seed to grow, and I planted the paradise, and enclosed it, and placed its armed guardians, flaming angels, and thus I created renewal. And then came evening, and then came morning the 4th day. On the 4th day I commanded that there should be great lights in the heavenly circles. And on the first uppermost circle I placed the stars, Chrono, and on the 2nd, Aphrodite, and on the 3rd, Aris, and on the 5th, Zeus, and on the 6th, Hermes, and on the 7th, lesser the moon, and adorned it with the lesser stars. And on the lower I placed the sun for illumination of day, and the moon and stars for the illumination of night. And the sun that it should go according to each constellation 12, and I appointed the succession of the months, and their names and lives, and their thunder goings, and their hour markings, how they should succeed. Then evening came, and morning came, the 5th day. And on the 5th day I commanded the sea that it should bring forth fishes, and feathered birds, and many varieties, and all animals creeping over the earth, going forth over the earth on 4 legs, and soaring in the air, male, sex, and female, and every soul breathing the spirit of life. And there came the evening and morning, the 6th day. And on the 6th day I commanded my wisdom to create man from 7 consistencies: 1, his flesh from the earth; 2, his blood from the dew; 3, his eyes from the sun; 4, his bones from stone; 5, his intelligence from the swiftness of the angels and from cloud; 6, his veins and his hair from grass of the earth; 7, from my breath and from the wind. And they gave him 7 natures: to the flesh, hearing; for the eyes, for sight; to the soul, smell; the veins for touch; the blood for haste; the bones for endurance; to the intelligence, sweetness. I conceived a cunning saying to say, I created man from invisible and from visible nature, of both of this his death and life image. He knows speech like the created thing, small in greatness, and again great in smallness. And I placed him on earth, a second angel, honourable, great and glorious, and I appointed him as a ruler, to rule on earth, and to have my wisdom. And there was none like him on earth, of all my existing creatures. And I appointed him a name, and from the 4 component parts, from east to west, and from south to north, I appointed for him 4 special stars. And thus I called his name Adam, and showed him the 2 ways, the light and the darkness. And I told him, this is good, and that bad. And I showed I should learn whether he has love for me towards me, or hatred, that it be clear in which his race love me. For I have seen his nature, but he has not seen his own nature. Therefore, through not seeing, will he sin worse. And as I said, after sin, what is there but death? And I put sleep into him, and he fell asleep, and I took from him a rib, and created him a wife, that death should come to him by his wife. And I took his last word, and called her name Mother, that is to say, Eva. Adam has life on earth, and I created a garden in Eden in the east that should observe the testament and keep my commandment. I made the heavens open to him, that he should see the angels singing the song of victory and the gloomless light. And he was continuously in paradise, and the devil understood that I wanted to create another world, because Adam was Lord on earth, to rule and control it. The devil is evil spirit of the lower places. As a fugitive he made Satana. From the heavens his name was Satanael. Thus he became different from the angels, but his nature did not change, his intelligence as far as his understanding of righteousness and sinful things. Satanael... I said to him, Earth you are, and into earth whence you took you, you shall go, and I will not ruin you, but send you whence I took you. Then I can again receive you at my second presence. And I blessed all my creatures, visible, physical, and invisible, spiritual. And Adam was 5.5 hours in paradise. And I blessed the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in which he rested from all his works. And I appointed the 8th day also, that the 8th day should be the first created after my work, and that the first 7 revolve in the form of the 7,000, and at the beginning of the 8,000 there should be a time of not counting, endless, with neither years, nor months, nor weeks, nor days, nor hours. And now, Enoch, all that I have told you, all that you have understood, all that you have seen of heavenly things, all that you have seen on earth, and all that I have written in books by my great wisdom, all these things I have devised and created from the uppermost foundation to the lower and to the end. There is no counsellor nor inheritor to my creations. I am self-eternal, not made with hands, and without change. My thought is my counsellor, my wisdom and my word are made, and my eyes observe all things, how they stand there and tremble with terror. And if I turn away my face, then all things will be destroyed. And apply your mind, Enoch, and know him who is speaking to you, and take thence the books which you yourself have written.